And there. All right, cool. Well, we're live, and I'll give an intro to what's going on here for folks that are catching us on the socials. So this is a podcast mastermind, started with a few talented friends in the business and podcasting space who expanded it to create a weekly event where a wider audience could join. I'll give a little intros to each of the folks we have here today. Henry Lopez back with us after his travels in the cruising realm on cruise ships. A serial entrepreneur, small business coach, and host of the top-rated How a Business podcast, dedicated to helping others start, run, and grow their small businesses. We also have here Mark Hayward. He's a business coach who helps turn ideas into businesses and also helps businesses grow. He's the host of the Absolute Business Mindset podcast, and he also runs a podcast training program. And I'm Ethan Janney, and my current project is the Edge of NFT podcast, which is, I should not be calling a project. It's a company, the Edge of Company, which is a tech events and media company. We'll be hosting the NFT LA convention in March 28th to the 31st, featuring incredible leaders in the NFT space, including folks like Mark Cuban and Neil Strauss and Steve Aoki. Really a lot of great speakers for that event. So looking forward to that happening and planning that out. So here we are to talk about podcasting a little bit more, and excuse a little bit of background. I've got a visitor working on the house a little bit, so there's a little bit of background noise. But last week we were meant to have a guest, and she was sick, so we didn't get there. But Mark and I had a bit of a chat about, what's going on. I shared a little bit about the convention that we're putting together as well, and our podcast continues to grow very rapidly and still exponentially. There was a little bit of a pullback. That'd be interesting for us to talk about. I think we talked about it last year, same time, like a December pullback. I don't know if that's consistent across everyone. We had a lot of stuff going on, so that could have been it as well. We were sort of paying attention to other things and not putting as much on the podcast. But how was did you keep an eye on your numbers there, Henry, over the holidays? And do you see that kind of a pullback? Or
I usually do, but not this past December.
so you were stealing our listeners, is that?
Apparently. So I kept setting records, and in January I've set an all-time new record. January's have been my all-time, but December was right in line. I usually see a drop off, in part because I do one less episode. I don't release an episode the week of Christmas. Same thing in November, but it didn't seem to affect the numbers. And then I hit an all-time high of 85,000 in January. Now what'll be interesting is typically then I'll hit, in the last couple of years, I'll hit that high and then it drops a little bit. And it makes sense. This is everybody with their New Year's resolution type mentality or mindset of I'm finally going to do this thing of starting a business. So yeah, the numbers have continued to grow. So all last year steadily, I started the last year hitting a January record of 70,000 and then just hit a new record of 85,000.
Congratulations! So you're pushing 100K a month there.
Almost at 100K. Now I don't. Well, we'll see. We'll see how the growth goes and how much of that stays, but it'll be interesting to see.
And and did you end up skipping the Christmas week this year as well?
Yes.
And how about, what's your schedule? Do you do weekly?
Weekly, yes. Typically one episode a week.
That's pretty awesome. So, and then downloads per episode, it's not just 85,000 divided by 4 because you have back catalog downloads.
Right. I like we talked about it, I don't know, several months ago we talked about it when I've analyzed it, and I haven't done that since last quarter. I typically, roughly speaking, about 50% of my listens are into my back catalog. I could get more granular in measuring that because my back catalog now is 5 years worth, right? 408 episodes, but roughly speaking, 50% is what I'm calling the back catalog.
Right.
So now, one of the popular measures is how many downloads in the first 30 days. And I'm at about, anywhere between 5,000 and 6,000 thereabouts.
5,000 and 6,000 in the first 30 days.
Yeah.
And does that put you, I know they have metric versus like how many
Mm-hmm.
downloads you get in the first 7 days, 30 days, and then
Mm-hmm.
ranking like, you know,
Yeah.
because it's actually, you know, top 5% of podcasts, you only need like a few hundred. I think it's less than 1,000 downloads in the first 7 days or
Um.
something
Oh well, yeah, that could be true. I think I'm in like the top 10% bracket.
of
Is my
podcasts
Yeah. Yeah.
for downloads.
Yep. Yeah.
I
Believe it or
doubt
not.
it. Come on, no, I think you're way above that. Why? Where
No.
do you
No.
get your
No.
stats from? No,
Yeah. No. That's what I've seen latest from Libsyn and so forth. Yeah. In that range in there. I mean,
interesting.
some months it might be higher than that, but that's about where I'm sitting right now.
Yeah, there's this article that I've seen. Let's see, it's from thepodcasthost.com. Now it might have been, you know, a long time ago or something, but it says if you have within your first 7 days of release more
Mm-hmm.
than 539 downloads. Now, of
Okay.
course, this has been around for a while. You're in the top 5% of podcasts.
Now, so when
And it
was the
says
date of that? I'm sorry, the date of that article.
the day of the article, that's the thing that may be at play here. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
that there is a date. So
Okay, I see.
maybe this author needs to
Yeah, that
update their
sounds a little
content.
low from the numbers that I've seen from Libsyn over the last few years. It's
Hmm.
but I've never heard the 7 day measure. The measure I've always heard is the 30-day
The
measure.
30 day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that tends to be more accurate. And it makes sense. I mean, I have always seen that listenership, ramps up certainly in those first 7 days, but then it continues for a good 30 days, certainly.
Hmm.
Yeah. Now, part of that
Interesting. Well, it
is
might be
if people
interesting to look
listen.
at the numbers that you
Yeah.
look at too.
Yeah. People, certainly we've all talked about this for all of our shows. People listen to one episode, the latest one. If they like it, then they go back. Some people, because I've been told this, will go all the way to the beginning and then work forward, which, it's crazy. But some people, I just had somebody tell me that a few weeks ago. And the only way I get this information, of course, most accurately is when someone schedules a free coaching call. That's the first thing I ask them. How did they find me? How do they listen to the show? And then that's when they usually will share that. So that's my evidence, if you will, right? Because that's the tough thing about podcasting is we don't have great measure of who's listening. We only have certain stats.
And what about I don't know if we've ever discussed this in terms of charts. Do you use
Mhm.
like Chartable or some
Yeah,
other service
Chartable.
to watch
All
where
right,
you're
so I was
at?
just going there as you were asking. I usually am somewhere in the top 100 US for entrepreneurship,
Hmm.
but I haven't actually checked it in a while. I'm going to look at it right now. So that's usually where I'm at. So let's see. Right now, I am number 44 in Apple Podcasts, United States entrepreneurship.
Cool.
So
What
that's my
about
highest ranking currently of the
what about
charts.
Bhutan?
I don't know. What is that? Oh, the country Bhutan.
Yeah.
Oh, I used to. You know where I do have a lot of listeners from, and I'm sure they're just fake listeners. Is Kenya
Why
for
would they
some
be
reason?
fake? How would you have fake
I don't
listeners
know.
in Kenya?
All those countries. I know that's certainly anything that's coming from the old Soviet Republic are probably clickers. I don't know what they call those people. People who get paid to click, that make the fake user accounts in Facebook, for example. That's
But
what
I
I
don't
always
know.
assume. That's what I
I don't know
assume.
though, because what's their incentive to like listen to a podcast as a robot? I guess there
That's
could
true.
be.
That's true. That's true. That's a good point.
I think what it is that they're, yeah, maybe that somebody should figure this out because I think it's an open question, and I think maybe these services like Chartable should be to tell us what's going on, or whatever.
Mhm.
Transistor gives me stats or whatever, because yeah, it lists you as like the number one podcast in like the United Arab Emirates or something or whatever for some topic, right? And it's like,
Right.
how does that happen? Is
I
it that
know. I
there's
know.
not a
It's
lot of
weird.
podcast listeners in general in the
Could
United
be.
Arab
I get
Emirates?
them
Is
in
it, yeah,
Indonesia for some reason.
One
yeah.
thing I've heard, and
Oh,
this
yeah.
just comes back from my days when I was doing sales training. I remember I was doing some sales training in Japan for Microsoft, and there was a small group of them. We went around the room and said, what are you looking to get out of this training session? And every single one of them said, I want to improve my English. I want to improve my English. I want to improve my English. It's like, oh my gosh, I guess I'm here for an English lesson. But sometimes that's a lot of times in these countries how people might learn English is one of my guesses. But if I look at my list right now, United States by far and large, Canada, this is an order of downloads. Canada, Australia, United Kingdom, Philippines, South Africa, Ghana, New Zealand, Indian, and United Arab Emirates. Those are my top, whatever that was, 10 or whatever that was. Yeah, top 10.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you've got entrepreneurial folks in Kenya and they
Yeah,
want to
no,
listen to the
you're right.
podcast.
In fact, I've taken 2 free coaching sessions from people in that part of the world, and
Are you serious?
Yeah,
Well, there you
over the
go.
last 5 years. Over the last 5 years.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, it's actually what I found interesting too is I think I've told you guys about the service that I use. It's called Acadium, and they'll give you these apprentices to kind of
Yes.
help you with marketing and stuff like that. And I I was it was interesting because I had used like Upwork and things like that, and you get people from other countries to that want to
Mm-hmm.
help out with various stuff, and I was surprised the number of younger people, because it's mostly younger people, they had on there from African countries,
Hmm.
and also just that had interesting skill set, and I think that I just hadn't seen that on other platforms,
Right.
and there were people that were dealing with their own issues in those countries too. I had a guy who like stopped coming, and I like literally it was because like there was some sort of like
Wow.
military like issue, so it was a
Right.
little bit hard to deal with and say, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I'd really like to help you and employ you, but like you can't show up to the meeting. Like it was very awkward, but also refreshing to see that
Yeah.
there's an outlet for people to sort of get economic stability out of those scenarios. But anyways,
And so
long
much of
story
it appears
short,
to
I
be
think there's
if they can get stable internet access, it changes their world, doesn't it?
Mm.
mhm,
Or it
yeah,
can
yeah.
change their world. Yeah.
Totally. And I mean, not to direct the conversation this way too far, but on the Edge of NFT podcast, we're learning all these different ways that
Amazing.
NFTs and this sort of ownership of
Mhm.
things and play to earn gaming and all this are kind of allowing people in these other countries to access opportunity. And it's kind of like this metaverse, developing
Mhm.
metaverse idea is that like, well, once you hop on the metaverse, as long as you can access it, there's
Right.
almost like levels the playing field. Now you've got a lot of resources that other people don't. But the one thing that people tend to have in these countries is time. So they could
Mm.
put time in learning how to navigate a metaverse where there's earning potential. And
Right.
because it's on the same playing field as someone in, the United States or Europe or whatever, um, they can earn a significant amount. It's like, whoa, how I
Mhm.
made all this, I made all these funds from playing this game or,
Yeah.
behaviors in this metaverse. So that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, you should give a shout
You
out to
did?
your
How did
Kenyan
you all's
listeners.
numbers look like in January? I'm curious.
So in January, we were up to 18,000, I think.
And is that, let's see, how
Per
long
month.
has this is for the Edge of NFT we're talking, right?
Yeah.
When would you
hmm
launch again?
We launched in March of
Okay.
2021.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've seen pretty significant like a 30 to 50% month over month growth
Yeah. Significant.
up till November, then the
Interesting.
pullback in December, and then basically in January we got back to November numbers and then some. And I'm actually really interested to see what we end up having this month,
Mhm.
because last month was slightly above um, November. Like January was slightly above November. But if we go on track with our downloads that we've gotten so far this month, um, then we could get significantly more. Like I'm at like more than double. I think it's like again, it would be at least a 50%
Do you
increase
think
month
your
over month.
event will like are you using that as the marketing tactic to develop audience as well?
So what's interesting is we haven't pushed that lever as much as we could. you know, a lot of what's going on with the event is we've kind of directed almost all our resources at the event and then let the podcast kind of continue as it goes and maybe use it as a leverage point for networking and meeting people or whatever. But um, so it's the other way around. You know, we're using the podcast to promote the event, but not so much the event to promote the podcast. But inadvertently, because the event has traction, I'm managing our Discord server, and I think we talked about this a little bit, Mark, and we could talk about this more because Discord is really interesting since I've dove into it a bit deeper. And we have a channel in there now for NFTLA, right? But it's the Edge of NFT Discord channel, right? Discord server, right? So somebody hears, oh, I could join this Discord because I'm interested in NFTLA. Then they hop in there and they go, oh, NFTLA, I was interested in that. Well, oh yeah, we're in the Edge of NFT Discord server. Here's all the things we got going on. And so I'm I think, I don't know what the right word, very positive or optimistic or almost certain, whatever, that
Bullish.
the actual convention, both building up to it and the event itself, will probably increase our download number significantly. And I think what I've found interesting throughout our trajectory so far is like each month we've seen this percent increase, but it seems like each month it's a different reason, which I found interesting, right?
A different catalyst, yeah.
A different catalyst. Like one month it was because we had on a guest that did like a really big giveaway, right?
Yeah,
and then one month it was because we had a guest that had a lot of followers or something like that, you know, or one month because we added this sort of thing on YouTube or whatever. So I find that interesting that like in order to maintain, it's like a consistent growth trajectory, but catalyzed by different things.
Yeah, different
like at each turn.
So is everybody that will be? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go on, Henry.
Is everybody that'll be at the conference? They're not necessarily listeners. Is that what you're getting at? And how many people are you anticipating? I'm curious.
We're going to do 2,500 to 3,000.
Okay.
It was a 2.5 day event. Now it's 3.5. And there'll be run up events and post events that we may or may not be associated with. There's going to, other people are going to have things associated with this. People are going to make announcements at the conference, stuff like that. So
everybody's not necessarily a listener that you know of. You don't know, right? Have you thought about releasing some kind of content that I need or some kind of direction or whatever that you have to go listen to that episode for what for the conference? In other words, kind of make it not required, but you'll find out more about whatever at the conference if you listen to this episode, or it's a guide to the conference or whatever it might be.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. We're definitely playing around, like I said, with the back and forth of it. We talk about the conference on the podcast, but I think, and then the way that we have stuff that's like that is we have these NFTs. So we have our Spirit Seed NFT collection, which we did in collaboration with Nicole Buffett. And with that collection, by purchasing one of these NFTs, you have all these perks associated with it. And one of them just happens to be you get a VIP ticket to the conference. And so there is that like leverage point. But to your point, I think it's interesting. We're starting to explore, like if you do this, you get this perk, right? So we could do, hey, you're going to go to NFTLA convention, go listen to this podcast episode, get the secret word, get the thing, and then when you're here, you'll get a free T-shirt or whatever. I think, we could significantly pump our download numbers that way. I think.
Exciting.
And I want to tell you guys about this other thing. Again, these things might not seem so relevant, I think, to everyone nowadays, but from what we're seeing, the NFT space is growing a lot. So these things called POAPs, a proof of attendance protocol NFT, and I've been playing around with those, and those are really cool because they're basically free to create by the creator. They're relatively easy for listeners and audience members to acquire in terms of the difficulty level of NFT stuff. But basically, it's like a proof that you either were at an event or you participated in a thing or you got to this or that. And so what I've been doing lately is we have a gamification in the Discord server. If you're engaging to a certain level,
I see.
then it gives you rankings. And so you can go from level 1 to level 5 to level 10 to level 20. And so in January, it's February now, I said, if you get to level 6 by January 31st, you are eligible for one of these proof of attendance protocol NFTs. It's called a POAP. And sure enough, like there was a handful of people who were like, I want one of those. Like, I want to engage, I want to participate. And it's, you might say, well, what is it? It's just like a digital thing. Like, who cares? But I'll tell you a little bit more about this, which is really cool. I talked to a guy that works with POAP, the organization, and he said he got his job because of all of the POAPs that he had collected, but not only because it showed that he was a fan of the company, but that it showed very clearly all the things that he had participated in. And it was very easy then for him to kind of like prove like what he cares about, right? And what I thought was interesting about this is if you compare that to something like LinkedIn, right?
Right.
I go, LinkedIn, oh yeah, I went to Harvard. Like, I mean, people type in all kinds of BS on there.
Sure.
But you can't really fake these proof of participation NFTs, and it almost could be like the resume of the future. Because even if you don't have these like grades or these certificates that you accomplished things, just showing I went to this conference and this event and this training thing and I listened to this podcast, you're like, okay, well, listen, if you spent all that time doing that stuff, you probably know something or other about that domain. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, very interesting.
So,
question going back to the download question for both of you. I was just looking at your episodes on the edge of NFT, and I was just going to look at Mark's. By the way, Mark, there is somebody that has looks like it's a very dead show called Business Mindset with the same orange box and everything.
I know, it's absolute joke.
I know, that's ridiculous. It's a dead show, but
yeah. No, I know. I see that, and I'm just astonished that she's done that, and it's so similar. I was just really? Anyway,
so you've killed her already.
I've killed her. I've outlasted her anyway.
You took care of that problem. My question is, what have you guys seen? Any changes? Like for me, average listen is still at about 30 minutes, although most of my episodes are probably more like 45 to 50 minutes. I see yours on the NFT are anywhere in 30 to an hour. And then for you, Mark, looking just quickly here to see where you're averaging, but any stats there and any changes there? Yeah, it looks like yours, Mark, are about the length of mine, just under an hour.
Yeah.
And do you look on Libsyn for your how long?
Libsyn doesn't give that stat, so I go to Apple does, and I think Google, Spotify. Okay, yeah. So I'm having to go to those directories for that stat, and since most of my downloads are on Apple, it's fairly representative. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely have seen on our Spotify for Podcasters account that you can go to. We haven't delved into this too deeply, but you can go to a specific episode and then click on it, and then you can see the like trajectory. It'll basically say how many folks are listening at any given moment. So like this is just the first one I pulled up here. So actually this actually doesn't what I remember seeing previously.
The average listen is 28 minutes. You see that? So you're right at about the mark that I am. 30 minutes, even though our episodes are longer than that.
Our previous episodes, though, I think it almost went it like went down to 50%.
Is this one episode? This is one episode?
This is one episode.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if we have the group episode statistics, but yeah, that actually looks pretty solid. And then I'm guessing this is an ad that we have or something like that. Maybe they listened to the first ad and they're like, oh, I got another ad. I'm going to skip that one.
I wonder how it's measuring that. That's interesting. How about for you, Mark? Have you looked at that?
No, I've not massively looked into it. I've actually been promoting the YouTube channel.
Okay, how's that going?
Yeah, it's getting there. I started to look at the statistics for that, and I'm producing two a week, 1 6-minute episode, and then the feature length episode.
Got it.
There's only 22 subscribers. I've only really been looking at this for the last 6 weeks or so.
Yeah.
But when you look at the statistics, it's interesting. There's reoccurring listeners. So people, they're not all new listeners, which I thought was quite interesting. And they watch time is about 20 minutes, which is not surprising for YouTube, because that's very similar to what YouTube channels usually stick with. But yeah, just I'm trying to give that a big push at the moment. I'm starting to produce a bit more sort of starting content on it as well. And it's slowly but surely moving in the right sort of direction. The podcast stuff, I've got a core sort of people that listen to it now. The core is pretty solid on who's listening. I don't necessarily have that massive problem with December time. I don't usually see that. I know through COVID my numbers rocketed, literally like 3 times the numbers I was expecting. When we started in the UK going back to work, there was a drop off then. But it surprises me a little bit, because I always listen to my podcast on the commute. That was always where I'd listen to my main podcast listening. So, the numbers are stable. They're not spectacular, but they're stable. They can be around 2,000 to 4,000 downloads a month. We're not talking massive numbers, but they're pretty solid, and they do fluctuate sometimes. But to be honest, I don't know. It's just they're moving in the right direction. They're not going huge numbers, but I think for me, solid core numbers that are consistent is more important. And because I don't do anything which is necessarily cool and like NFTs. It's the audience I reach. I'm quite happy that they are a stable core set of people, and some of them are people that I worked with previously. Some are new people that sort of interacted, and what I tend to get is like spikes. So you were saying, Henry, when so on an episode recently, a guy really worked hard, Walter Delabere. He really worked hard on sharing on his social media and on his website. And I found a particular spike with his, which I wasn't really expecting. It wasn't the type of client I was necessarily, type of podcast that I was expecting to rocket. Equally, I do see people that find my podcast will download 200 of them just because they find it, they listen to one, they like it, and then they download a whole bunch of them. So those numbers, I find that is equally, and when you talked about yours, Henry, like 50% is back catalogue, you do find there's an initial peak when people download it on the day or around the day, but then there is that sort of consistent people going back to older episodes and sort of reflecting on those ones being of interest. And I think for me, because mine's quite broad, like if I've got a friend that's in property or real estate, they'll go through and find all the property ones and download them. And because I have like digital marketers, I have real estate people, I have any like new business owners, founders, I do find that you either find two things: that people download a chunk of them, or they'll pick and choose the episodes that they like.
And I see you've started to do some grouping of like episodes on your website. That's new, right?
Yeah. So what I'm doing is I'm looking to get a new website we're going to probably get this kicked off in middle of February. And so the plan is to sort of have one portal for all the podcasts and the archive, which we've talked about a lot, but equally some of the other offerings which I'm doing. So obviously I've got this guest business, which we've talked about. I'm obviously doing the training, which we've spoken about before, Henry, but something else that someone's reached out to me to do, and I'm going to create a page on this website, is also podcast production. So someone's asked me they record it and they do the social media and the marketing, and I'll do that middle chunk of editing, post-production, releasing, and show notes. And so someone's asked me to do that, so I'm going to trial that, and that's something. I was talking to someone today. That's the sort of thing that I can get an assistant to sort of, if they're up to speed on what they need to do, they can kind of do that. The training, I don't think I can teach someone that's never done a podcast in their lives before to do my training to be able to give the right impact and the right experience. So yeah, it's I'm going to try and have one place for all the different businesses that have spawned off of the podcast and have that all in one place, plus the directory, the sort of back catalogue for people to go through as well.
Have we generated any? I knew you said you had one lead that we had generated with our affiliate relationship.
Yeah, one lead. She did the course actually.
She did
about a week ago. Yeah.
Okay.
She was a woman from Switzerland. Didn't see it, like I was expecting it to be US based.
Interesting.
She listened to the podcast and went directly to me.
Okay, cool.
So she listened to our conversation and then thought that she wanted to reach out. So
good.
That's all we've had. Has anything come from your website?
No, I mean, it's interesting because one of the ways I'm measuring it is with a couple of downloads or one download that I created, but haven't gotten any traction on it, which is interesting. So again, the reason I went off on this tangent is those stats from the Google podcast search terms, which were primarily how to start a business podcast.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see if that continues if it gets any traction or not. I put the content there now. We've got the relationship with you, and we'll see. At this point, it hasn't really generated as much traction or any traction that I can measure with any significance. Which is interesting
to see. And I'll probably post it on social media in a month or two's time again.
Now, when somebody lands on my page, that's not what it's about immediately. So, and I'm not going to change my landing page, my homepage rather, to be that, because that's not really about, right? So they do have to do a couple of clicks, but it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, that for me, the website, I think we've talked about it, that it's a necessity. And the one I've got at the moment, isn't
definitely need
up to speed. And
well, you're missing out, right? But it's getting better, but you're missing out. Yeah, I've got interestingly, just talking about everything at once here, guys. That I started experimenting last year with. I used to do a lot of webinars that were free, and then last year started experimenting with paid, but a nominal fee. So I've got one coming up on Wednesday, and it's gotten pretty good traction. I think I have 11 or 12 people at a nominal fee of $20 a person. But what it's done is now, by charging for what I'm calling a workshop instead of a webinar, what I was experiencing was the last couple of years, people signing up and then nobody showed up. And so that's been something new that I started late last year, and I'm continuing.
I think you'll find a lot more, because people that I know that do things like this, it's not necessarily the amount that's important, but it's just making that commitment financially.
Exactly.
They're more likely, even if it is $5, $10.
They don't let that go. Exactly right.
Yeah,
you've got skin in the game, and so you're engaged. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that's a really smart move. I think that should give you a bit more leverage, because as you say, like, even if it is just a nominal fee, and you can cross sell, you can advertise on
exactly, upsell to that audience.
So yeah, I think that's a good idea.
And those are online? I know you're doing some in person.
Yes, online. I did one in person last year because I was trying to combine it with our shared office space business that I have in Fort Lauderdale. And that one was pretty successful as well. I have to do another one of those, especially if things continue to open up. But this one this week is online.
Have you ever? Yeah, go ahead.
No, I just say I do think people are obviously craving to get back together in person.
Yeah, I'm finding that a lot on networking.
Yeah.
With property and with other things, people are keen now to be in person. I've been to a couple. Actually, the one I missed 2 weeks ago, I actually went on a business networking event, and it was really, really good. Actually, there was a couple of people that are interested in investing with me with property, and one guy just came over from India. He'd only lived in the country for 6 weeks, but he's got a commitment with his wife. He's got a really good job and staying here for 2 years. And he was just saying, what do you do? So I was just explaining to what I did, and he was like, oh, that's really interesting. If we're going to stay, we are going to stay for 2 or more years, maybe it's a good place just to put a bit of money for long-term hold, and if we're going to stay here, we could sell it in 2 years or 5 years or whatever. So yeah, definitely from a networking point of view, people are a lot keener to get to that face-to-face, because it's just, I think people have been like gagging for it.
This conference I was at this past weekend is a Maui Mastermind that I do consultant coaching for, and it was a sold-out event. And then yours coming up, Ethan, I'm sure as well, as you're going to see that as people are ready to get together. And it's amazing, the most powerful thing that happens at these conferences often is just the natural face-to-face networking that happens.
Yes, it does make a difference. It really
makes
does.
a huge difference. Yeah.
I'm part of a group that works on Tuesday mornings, so it's always a bit of a stretch from this. This is late in my time, and doing very early on a Tuesday, and we're now doing one a month, face to face. So it's like 5:30 getting up in the morning, but you just get a different kind of networking, a different kind of conversation. And these are quite good. They put you into separate rooms, but I was on a catch up afterwards, and the thing with the online is someone automatically generates those rooms, so you could be with any of the group. But when you're face to face, you literally can say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I just need to speak to Joe,"
of course,
and you'll go and speak to Joe.
Much more, absolutely.
It makes it a bit more fluid, and people can be a little bit
fluid, more organic. It's just, it's not as contrived. So anyway,
it is nice though. One nice thing about the Zoom style of like breaking people out into random rooms is you people get a little bit out of their box more, right? Because you get these in-person things, especially if there's a lot of people that see each other often.
Absolutely.
They're like, oh, hey, Jimmy, cool, let's chat, man. And then it just
I'm guilty of that because I'm not great in those situations. So I go to who I know. I'll sit at the table with the people I know. So you're right about that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like ever since I started doing online education stuff, I was immediately aware of the drawbacks, and people would always highlight those, and I wasn't even aware of the advantages of some of the online stuff until I started doing it. So I was like, oh yeah, this is cool, you can do this remotely. And then I was like, oh well, like I was doing piano technology stuff where maybe I get a close-up view of a repair that I actually wouldn't be able to have for 10 people at the same time, right? Because I have like some of these little phone cameras now, like in a tiny little crevice in the piano or something like that. And so now it's interesting to see, like, now that people didn't even know what Zoom was when the pandemic started, right? It was a very small crowd of people who knew what it was. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see what people will take from like those experiences networking and then try to integrate them into personal things.
Good point.
Like, now we're just going to draw straws and we're going to put you guys in random rooms, just like on Zoom, whatever.
Yeah, no, it's a good point.
Question I'm experiencing at the moment is, so my course that I'm running with people who want to be podcasters, I'm thinking about creating a click funnel for it and I produced a PDF which just needs to be reviewed and sort of checked and stuff, and then moving people through to a sort of online video course of what I train on the sort of one-to-one stuff and sell it as $99 or 100 something, a small fee, And I would do maybe 2 hours of the 3 hour long course, which I would have as 2 separate videos. And if someone signs up for it, they can. I'm trialing out Google Drive. I'm trialing out Dropbox at the moment, because what I'm interested in doing is making that standalone folder that people can access, but they can't download it. So I don't want them to download it and share it with all their friends.
Right.
And I also want it only time stamped, so that they can only watch it for a month or something, or 2 weeks, whatever that period is.
Limited access.
It's a sort of like reoccurring income, so create an IP and then just do it while you sleep. Have either of you done anything like that? Because I'm trying to work out what the best tool is to direct people to, that they can't download and they can only look at it for a short period.
Sure. Yeah. The answer is yes. You should do that. I've done it. My one main course lives on Udemy, which I'm not saying I recommend. There's drawbacks. There's pros and cons. The pro is that there's no fee to you as the instructor.
Right.
That's the top probably reason why. And it has all of those features that you just rattled off and more. The negative is you only have so much control over pricing, and they can run specials and kind of people argue they'll undermine the value of it, but it worked for me. So that's one way to go. Another is there are a whole bunch of different plugins for a WordPress site if you wanted to host it yourself. That might be a cleaner way.
Go back one point.
Yeah, sure.
When you said it worked for you, meaning it worked for them to run their specials, or just the general usage of the
for what I'm doing with that course, which is a very introductory, top of the funnel type, low price course, I'm fine with them often now offering it for $19. Yeah. My price on it is $99, but I'm okay with that. It got me launched, which is the big barrier I find. And I was advised, and it took me forever to get this damn course launched. So I didn't want the technical platform component of it to hold me back. And it's a very easy to use platform from an instructor's perspective. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So that's why I went there. There are other ones like it, like Thinkific and a couple of other platforms, but usually you have to pay. So the other route, if you want to completely own it and not be subject to that arbitrary pricing or how much you can discount it, like with the Udemy course, I can't give it to anybody for free. I have to charge there's a minimum or a maximum that I can discount. Well, that limits me a little bit, because what if I wanted to bundle it into a bigger package? Then I'm kind of limited there. So you might want to look at, however, here's the thing though, don't let the technology part of it, whether you put it on Dropbox or whatever, just get it done. Because what I did is I'm the perfectionist type. And so it was never good enough. And it took me a freaking year to build this course. The other thing that people will tell you, and Ethan probably has ideas on this as well, is build it as you go. So sell it first and then build it.
Right. Yeah. Well, the thing that I was wanting to keep control of it and then funnel people through, because what the idea was that they do the video course, and then naturally they probably want to know more, and they then do the one-to-one or the sort of live course. So actually, maybe I look at different options for that, for just do it for an hour, just do it like a webinar sort of thing. And then
now I will say, remember people's attention span. So like Udemy, as their general instruction is no one video should be more than like 5 minutes, or I forget what it is.
Maybe with Udemy, you have to put them as chapters, don't you?
Yeah, you do. Exactly.
You can be like sort of that 5-10 minute per chapter, can't you?
That's what they recommend. I don't know that that's actually a hard rule, but that's just the attention span. So have you thought about what I've seen a lot of people do, which is it's an email course. So you sign up, and now I'm going to feed you one email a week, or whatever the cadence is, with the 15-minute or the 5-minute chunks.
Well, yeah. The thing with that is, then won't they be able to download?
No, well, you could set it up. I think with Google Drive, can you enable so you can't download? I don't know. I know you can enable
you can enable to people can't download. They can just be they can just be viewers rather than
only. Exactly.
But the problem I'm having with Google Drive is the time. And if you remove someone from the there's an admin burden of having to remove someone or remove a number of people. And the problem with that is that someone might sign on for today, and then I have to remember 2 weeks to do them, and then the next person might be 3 days later, and I've got to remember them. So
now you could automate that to some extent with a sequence in a system like MailChimp or Constant Contact allows you, but there's a cost to that, but it allows you to automate that workflow.
Well, because the thing that I'm trialing, so I see, Henry, you've joined my Facebook group, so thank you for that. But I'm trying to develop that as a sort of platform for some people, and I'm inviting people every week and sort of seeing an increase in there. And then I'm sort of seeing that I'm going to do one email about my podcast and one email about my podcast guest business, alternate either week, and then have 4 episodes of the email every week. Now, at the moment, I've just selected the last 60 guests and just I sent the first one last week, got another one Wednesday. And I'm just doing that as an individual email. Now, I'm not signed up for MailChimp. I just want to see if there's any traction there, if anyone asks any questions, or if there's any feedback. Do I get any response? Is it worthwhile doing? So I'm going to trial that for a few months, 3 months maybe, just to see if I get any sort of traction there. And if I do, then maybe a MailChimp or something like that might be the right platform just to automate it as much as possible.
Sure. Yeah.
But with all these things, I like trialing things, see if they work. If they don't work,
exactly.
Don't do
so
it
you
again.
Want to go as simple as possible.
Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to. I'm trying to. So I've got another assistant who joined me last week. Now he says he's a social media guru. He's got no evidence of it in his CV, but we talked through a few things. He sent me a couple of clips tonight of a couple of Instagram and TikTok evidence. He's basically packaged one of my videos and created 3 mini videos that can go on TikTok and Instagram. So my plan, like I was talking to someone last week about this, and she was saying she started spreading her social media presence wider and wider, and then found the quality that she was doing and the consistency of what she was doing was becoming less and less and less. So she said, I've got 4,000 quality people on LinkedIn. I'm just going to focus again on LinkedIn. So with this guy's support, I'm sort of thinking, so what the plan is that once a day, maybe we produce something, or 1 or 3 times a week, something like that, kind of semi-regular of different platforms, and see where I get, because when I see at the moment, Facebook for my audience at the moment, it's mainly friends and sort of property people. So I don't get a lot of traction from them. I get a bit of traction from LinkedIn just because I've been on there for so long and I've got quite good contacts on there. Instagram, I get a lot of people saying promote my podcast on this site and all this crap, which I don't ever do anything with. But I find LinkedIn I do get views and things there. Facebook is pretty zero. I don't get a lot of traction there. Instagram, I do get, the followers are naturally increasing every week, and I've been on TikTok to see what the whole shebang is about, but never really leveraged it. So with this guy helping me, the sort of idea is that we'll produce stuff for all platforms, and then I'll see which one works better. If TikTok, because one of these guys that does property, she started doing TikTok and she's getting hundreds of thousands of views, and she's doing nothing. She's not promoting. She's not.
But the thing is, though, views, and then does it convert is the big question, right? That's the
but
thing.
It depends on what you want to convert people.
Exactly, and that's what you have to continue to do. Like, so for me, so far, like when I do these webinars now, these workshops, especially ones that are paid, that's one of the ways I'm measuring, am I wasting my time on Twitter, for example, which the answer might be yes. And number 2 is my email list and my website. Those are the top 2 producers for the things that I want my audience to respond to. Those are my top 2 sources again and again.
Yeah, I would agree, because I don't think people, although saying that, I actually got someone reach out to me through my website saying, I saw you're a coach. Now I get this on LinkedIn a lot of BS. LinkedIn
Yeah.
is turned really difficult for
I'm this last round with LinkedIn, I have found that most of my connections are just other people trying to sell shit.
Yeah. I'm getting that a lot of LinkedIn.
And again, it's probably my fault because of the connections that I've created. And I've got, I don't know how many thousands of connections, but they're all shit. I mean, there's all people trying to sell something else. Hey, before I forget, another platform to think about is Vimeo. Are you familiar with Vimeo.com?
Not
Vimeo?
Really, no.
Yeah, take a look at Vimeo. It might also be able to solve what you're thinking here for the distribution of the video course.
I'll give you some quick input on the stuff that you said. By the way, I clicked your LinkedIn link from your website, and it's going to some other Mark Hayward, I think.
Oh, you're kidding me.
That can never be good, Mark.
He's a vendor service. He's a vendor service delivery manager. I don't know what happened there, but it's probably just a small tweak in the link. But anyways, but on the positive side, your SEO is way better than it was when we first started. I remember when I would search for you, I'd type like Mark Hayward Absolute Business Mindset Podcast and be like, we wouldn't get you.
Wouldn't get a blip,
but you're like, but yeah, now all you just have to type the podcast or your name and stuff's coming up really awesome. So it's good. Vimeo is great. Vimeo allows you, YouTube might allow this too, but I don't know. But Vimeo allows you to embed stuff where you can only embed it on a certain page, and it can only be, it can never be downloaded, right? Like you can even make it so people can't even press the play button, or it just sort of plays automatically. So there's a lot of tweaks that you can use. And Vimeo, I've used so many different features of Vimeo. I pay for the really big package. I think
it's not that expensive, right? Even the premium is $75 a month, so it's not ridiculous.
Other than that, though, I wanted to say, one thing also to consider is any downloadable content that you have, like worksheets or whatever. Maybe go the opposite direction. Just brand it really heavily. And who cares if people share it? Because
I was going to say that too.
Mark Hayward. Oh yeah, who's this guy? And then just say, have something at the bottom that says, if you want to find out more about Mark Hayward, go to, you could even have a call to action page where it goes to a page where they can sign up for an email list or something. And also something that I've learned just a ton recently, over the past few years, just doing content online. It is not so much about even having the content. A lot of it is curating the content. So it's like you can even create a course where you just put a bunch of YouTube videos that are publicly available, but you put them in a sequence where people don't have to go and find the right YouTube video. So keep that in mind. A lot of the value of the course, it's how well you do to get people in, get them the information they need, and get them out to do what they want to do faster than anything else. And it doesn't have to be you teaching this stuff. It doesn't have to be, they can be able to share it. There's all sorts of different ways. People are willing to pay for content just to have it curated, because it's all such a mess out there. There's so much information. It's such hell trying to sort through it all. So I think that's something to think of. But I've definitely done, what you're talking about, funnel websites, email lists, get people signed up for a course. The other thing you do too is you say, hey friends, my small group of people, maybe the people you already taught the course to. You say, hey, I'm going to do another version of this course. I'll do it for you guys for free. Or what you really do is you say, I think the course is going to be around XYZ amount. For you guys, you're going to be the first round. I'm going to do it for half price, or even 20% or whatever. And then not only do you prove that people want to pay for it, but then you get your content for the first round. And then you could always update this stuff as you go.
Yeah.
You could always, it is like Henry said, I've seen it too. For whatever reason, there's such friction to actually creating that content and getting it going. It is so hard to put it all together. That's why I really appreciated, I just have other people come and teach for the content that I do. So much easier. And then I solve a problem for them because they don't know how to host it. They don't know how to do a Zoom call or get an audience there or sell it. Or so I just say, hey, listen, I'll get to an expert here. Even though I might have something interesting to say on the topic, it's so much awkward. It's so much. They'll focus on just getting the content together, getting the class together. I'll focus on presenting it and like curating it, so just a few tips of that. But if you want any more, coaching or insights on that, like making a course, I've done it. Yeah, not that I've the best, but I've definitely done it.
Okay, cool. Maybe we'll touch base on that because I was talking to someone today and they were saying maybe you don't have the video and maybe you just get the PDF to the one-to-one course, and maybe you just miss that sort of middle phase and you just get everyone signing up to your training. But then you're sort of like, am I cutting off that proportion of people that just want to do their own video and like listen to their own video? Absolutely. And they'll sort the rest out themselves?
Yeah, but plus you want that leveraged. You want to start building that leveraged content.
Exactly.
Yeah, that doesn't need you to deliver it one-on-one or even in a cohort. That's what you got to build, even if it is leading up to then a higher paid one-on-one program with you or the additional coaching with you.
Yeah, and I think the 1 hour video would be a little bit, it wouldn't be exclusively this, but somewhere halfway through and at the end just say something like, if you want the full one-to-one service, at the end click this link.
Yeah, the way to phrase it, I always use this phrasing one way or another, or this concept which I learned from someone else when I was doing a lot of webinars and workshops, and that is that for some of you listened to that episode where I discussed this topic, and those people aren't here. That was enough for them. You all that joined us today, you needed that additional hour that Mark and I have just spent explaining this concept in more detail. And for some of you, that's what you needed. Congratulations. That's fantastic. For another group of you, you want and need more. And so that's what this next course is for, right? And that's kind of this mentality. I forget who I learned that from, but that's kind of how I think of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good idea, just to say, like, some people just
totally agreed,
but some people want to learn it themselves, and
that's right. Some people that's enough. Some people those are the people that can watch a YouTube video and say, I got it, right?
Yeah.
Other people, they're still going to watch that 1 hour video and they'll get some, but they might just need the accountability portion of the one-on-one with you, right? That might be what they need.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the other thing I was thinking about, a couple of guys that I'd been on my course, and now they're up to about 60 or 70 episodes of their podcast. I'm wondering to get them back onto my podcast, and maybe both of them on at once, and sort of talk how their journey's going. And then there's a sort of subliminal sort of
powerful,
you can go back to my podcast course.
I just did that with my pallet broker affiliate. We just did an episode at the beginning of January where we brought on one of his students to talk about his experience. Unbeknownst to me, by the way, it was beautiful. Unbeknownst to me, he had found this guy through my podcast. Right. So it was all perfect synergy, right? It was an uncoached sell for my podcast and for this program. And so, I think people love that, right? Yeah. They love hearing from people who have actually been through it. It's a testimonial at the same time that it's a pitch, and it's perfect.
Yeah. Sorry, Ethan, do you need to go?
I got to run for today.
Yep, me too.
But,
I will not be on next week.
Get started. So
I'll be on another boat next week. So I will be out next week. Listen, it's a hard life, but somebody's got to live it.
Right. I guess so, man.
I'll be back on the 21st.
All right. Don't come back with too many pounds from those
buffets.
Cruise ship
I love the buffets. I love the buffets.
Free ice cream all day long. Oh man.
All right. You guys be good.
All right, guys.
Catch you
later.
later.
Cheers.
Bye.